Before we dive into these scary stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoy true horror content every week. When you are ready, lean back, and let's dive into this week's horror stories. I took a solo trip through the Southwest the summer I turned 22, trying to clear my head after a pretty brutal breakup. I didn't have a plan, just my car, some savings, and the need to feel like I was moving forward. I bounced between cheap motels, truck stop coffee, and way too many long stretches of highway. It wasn't glamorous, but it was quiet. It gave me space to think, which I really needed. One night, I pulled into this rundown roadside motel a few miles outside Flagstaff. I'd been driving all day and was dead tired. The place was exactly what you'd expect. An old U-shaped building with peeling paint and a neon vacancy sign that barely worked. It was around 5 p.m., gray and muggy out, and all I wanted was a shower and sleep. The woman at the front desk barely looked up as she handed me the key to my room. I guess she was tired of working there. As I was walking to the door, I glanced up and caught sight of someone in the second-floor window. A man. He was standing behind the curtain, totally still. His face was right up against the glass. I couldn't see much detail. He was maybe in his 40s, dark hoodie. I looked away. I told myself not to overthink it or stare at him. Motels draw weird energy. I'd seen worse. I got inside, dropped my bag on the bed, and turned on the TV just to have some noise. The room smelled like mildew and cheap air freshener, but I didn't care. I took a hot shower, changed into sweats, and settled in with a book. But the place felt off. Thin walls. Every door slam or muffled TV felt like it was happening right next to me. There was a couple arguing somewhere in another room, and their voices bled through like they were in the bathroom with me. Around 7:30, I was brushing my hair and glanced out the window. He was still there. Same window, same position, still staring. It was hard to tell if he was looking at me through the reflection, but it still made me nervous. I closed the blinds and tried to forget about it. Told myself he was just some creepy loner who'd probably been staying there too long. Still, I couldn't relax. Later that night, probably close to 9:30, I got hungry. I hadn't eaten dinner, and the vending machine outside was basically my only option. It wasn't far, just around the corner at the edge of the building. I grabbed my hoodie, told myself it'd only take 2 minutes, and stepped out into the night. The parking lot was almost empty. I looked up toward where I'd seen him earlier. The window was empty. No sign of the man. I remember feeling this weird mix of relief and dread. Like, where did he go? The walkway to the vending machine was dark. One of the overhead lights had gone out. That whole corner felt like a blind spot. I walked faster, head down, arms tucked in. As I reached the machine and bent to press the buttons, I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Not faint. Heavy and raspy. Close. "Hello?" I called out, instantly regretting it. No one answered, but footsteps started approaching me from the dark, but I couldn't see anyone. I grabbed whatever snack had dropped and turned, speed-walking back toward my room without even looking behind me. My heart was going so fast I thought I might pass out. I slammed the door behind me, locked it, threw the deadbolt, and peeked out the blinds. No one. I tried to calm myself down. Maybe it was just another guest. Maybe I overreacted. I kept telling myself I was being dramatic. I turned the TV up, opened my snacks, and tried to pretend everything was fine. Then around 12:30 a.m., I began hearing scratching. On the door, like fingernails dragging across the wood. I turned off the lights and TV immediately and peeked through the blinds. He was there, standing right outside my door, in the rain. Not hiding, not moving. Staring and scratching on my door. His face was clearer now, way too clear, almost gray, and this smile, like he'd been waiting for this moment all night. Then he spoke. "Open up, young lady." I backed away, grabbed my phone with shaking hands, and called 911. I whispered everything I could to the dispatcher, trying to keep my voice low so the man couldn't hear me. She told me help was already on the way and asked if I had anything to protect myself with. I didn't. I told her I was going to hide. The man started pounding on the door now, fists hitting the door harder each time. "Pretty lady, open up now," he said. I turned the closet light off and crawled inside, pushing myself behind a couple jackets I'd hung up earlier. Suddenly the door burst open. It got real quiet. Then, footsteps, creaking across the floor. He was in the room. I heard him muttering but couldn't make out the words. Then his shadow moved across the carpet. He looked under the beds, opened drawers. "I know you're in here, pretty lady," he said. Then he walked into the bathroom. For a second, I considered making a run for it, but my legs wouldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I felt frozen. Then I saw his shadow come back. He was standing right outside the closet doors. I shut my eyes. I didn't want to see him open it. And just as I thought he was about to get me, the police arrived. "Police! Show us your hands!" Lights flashed through the window. A flood of footsteps burst through the door. I heard shouting, a struggle, then silence, then cuffs. "You're lucky, young lady. Real lucky. The things I would have done," the man muttered just loud enough for me to hear. They dragged him out. One of the officers found me still in the closet, sobbing so hard I could barely speak. My legs gave out as soon as I stood up, and he caught me before I hit the floor. They kept asking if I was hurt. Physically, no. But I wasn't okay. Not even close. I think what scared me the most wasn't the moment he got in. It was how long he waited, watching, knowing I'd have to come out eventually. The patience of someone like that, it haunts me. I haven't stayed in a motel since. I don't think I ever will again. I used to work at a rundown roadside motel just outside El Paso. It wasn't part of a chain, just a weather-beaten place, 30 rooms, one vending machine, and a manager who only came around to collect the week's earnings. I was 24 at the time. It wasn't the worst job. Mostly quiet. The guests would often be the occasional late-night trucker or tired family. I'd bring a book or scroll my phone through most of the shift, sipping lukewarm coffee and waiting for 7 a.m. to roll around. This happened last spring. I remember because it was right after that stretch of bad rain we had, the kind that floods desert roads and leaves everything smelling like wet sand and metal. The storm had knocked out our security cameras the week before, and the manager still hadn't fixed them. Not that we ever really needed them. At least that's what I thought. It was a Thursday night, a little past 1 a.m. when the guy came in. I hadn't heard a car pull up, but I saw him through the glass door, just standing there in the rain, no umbrella, wearing a dark hoodie soaked through. I buzzed him in, assuming his car was parked around the side. He stepped inside, dripping onto the floor. "Need a room?" I asked. He didn't answer at first, just looked at me. His face was pale and kind of weird, like he was trying to hold in a smirk. His eyes didn't quite focus. Then he finally said, "Yeah, just one night. Cash only. No ID." That wasn't unusual for this place, but something about him didn't sit right. I gave him room 6, one of the closer ones, so I could keep an eye on it. He took the key without a word and walked out. I watched him cross the lot, but I never saw where he came from. Still no car. I tried to shake it off. Maybe he was just high. I went back to my book. About 40 minutes later, the phone at the desk rang. I picked it up. No one spoke. I said hello 3 times before finally hanging up. Before I could even sit back down, it rang again. This time, there was breathing, like someone had been running. "Front desk," I said, more annoyed than anything. Nothing. Then, just before the line clicked off, I heard a voice say, "She's not breathing." It sent a chill straight through me. I called room 6, thinking maybe he misdialed. No answer. I hung up and stared out the window for a minute. The lot was still. Room 6's curtain was drawn. I told myself I was overthinking it. Maybe it was a prank. Then I noticed something on the monitor. One of the motion sensors in the hallway near the laundry room had just pinged. We didn't have guests in those rooms that night, and I hadn't seen anyone go in or out. I walked over, trying to act tough with my flashlight in hand. I passed rooms 7 and 8, which were empty and dark. When I got to the laundry door, I heard something inside. Shuffling. "Hello?" I called. "This area is staff only." No response. I opened the door slowly. It was empty, machines off, no lights. But the weirdest part was the smell. Something foul, like old meat. I shut the door, went back to the office, and locked it behind me. A little after 3 a.m., another guest, a woman from room 12, came into the lobby. She looked shaken, said she'd seen someone walking outside her window, not just walking, but standing and watching. She thought it was someone trying to break in, so she turned on the lights, and the person walked off into the dark. I asked her what the person looked like. She just said, "He was wet, like dripping, even though it's not raining anymore." Room 6's curtain was still drawn. I decided to knock on the door, maybe ask if the guy needed anything. But when I got there, the room was dark. I knocked twice. No answer. I used the master key. The room was empty. Bed untouched, lights off, shower dry. No sign anyone had ever been there. I walked out into the lot confused and turned back toward the office, and that's when I saw it. Wet footprints on the concrete, bare feet, leading away from room 6 toward the back fence where the brush got thick. And right next to the door frame, scratched into the paint, were 4 words: "She is not breathing." I followed protocol, called the cops. They showed up, swept the place, took a statement. Nothing came of it. The guy never checked in with a name, he had no car, no prints in the system. So much for only cash and no ID. Room 6 hadn't been used in over a year, they told me later. Management had closed it after a domestic incident. A man had brought a woman there. She was found dead in the bathtub the next day. He disappeared before they could arrest him. They reopened the room 2 weeks before I started. I don't work there anymore, but I often think about it. Maybe the man I saw was the same man that got away. I'd been driving along a stretch of highway that felt like it led nowhere, but straight into the night when my car broke down about an hour earlier. My phone was dead, and I had no cell signal. The sun was low, and the sky was fading to gray. I'd been hoping to make it to the next town by now. With no other option, I started walking. After what felt like miles, with nothing but dark trees and broken fences on either side, I saw a sign. It was for a motel, a cheap place. I walked in, hoping for a room where I could charge my phone, sleep, and figure out a plan in the morning. The front office looked like it hadn't changed since the 80s. I pushed the door open, and a bell tinkled overhead. Behind the desk was a man, maybe in his late 50s, with thinning gray hair and a worn-out polo shirt. He smiled at me, seemed friendly enough. He introduced himself as Carl, the manager, and said he'd be happy to help me find a room. I paid in cash for a single room, and instead of just handing me the key, Carl insisted on walking me to the door. I thought it was odd, but I was tired and cold, and I wanted to get settled, so I followed him without question. As we walked down the cracked concrete path, I noticed the other doors had no vacancy signs or were boarded up. Carl unlocked the door to the room at the very end, fumbled with the lock, and pushed the door open. The smell hit me immediately. Stale cigarette smoke and something else I couldn't quite place. The room was small, with faded wallpaper, a lumpy mattress, and a crooked picture hanging on the wall. The heating unit sputtered quietly near the window, your typical old motel room. Carl stood in the doorway, fiddling with the lock again to make sure it was secure. He told me if I needed anything to just call the front desk, and then he left. I locked it immediately, took a deep breath and tried to shake the uneasy feeling that had settled over me. I tried to focus on the small comforts, a hot shower, a warm bed, and the hope that tomorrow would be better. The shower helped for a while, the hot water clearing the cold from my bones. But when I got into bed, exhaustion hit me harder than I expected. I lay down and almost immediately drifted off. I woke hours later, in the middle of the night, startled by a noise, the soft click of the door unlocking. My heart slammed against my ribs, every nerve in my body screaming to move, to scream, to do anything. But I stayed still, pretending to be asleep. I told myself it must be some kind of mistake, maybe the lock was faulty or the wind nudged the door. But then it opened and I heard someone enter, moving across the floor toward the bed. A shadow fell across my face and I felt a breath, heavy and warm, near my cheek. For what felt like forever, there was only silence. Then a voice, low and calm, whispered near my ear. "Just checking in." It was Carl. I swallowed hard, heart pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. I didn't respond. He just stood there, his head 10 inches or so from mine. I wasn't sure of what he might do to me, but I kept pretending to be asleep even though I wanted to scream and run for my life. After what felt like hours, he slowly backed away and the door clicked shut behind him. I sat up unsure if it was just a dream. It felt so real. It had to be real. My hands shook as I searched for my phone. Miraculously, it had charged enough to turn on. I packed up as fast as I could, keeping my ears open for any other noises. At the front desk, Carl acted as if nothing had happened. When I asked about the door unlocking, he shrugged and said, "Must have been a malfunction." I didn't argue. I wanted to get away. I ran outside, thinking I couldn't be far from the town I was originally heading to. I started walking fast down the cracked pavement, hoping to put some distance between me and that motel, between me and Carl. After a few minutes, I heard footsteps behind me. I glanced back and saw him, Carl, emerging from the shadows. He was walking steadily, eyes locked on me. Panic flooded my veins. I broke into a run. The gravel crunched beneath my boots as I darted off the pavement and into the woods. Branches scraped against my jacket and face, thorns digging into my skin, but I didn't care. I pressed myself against a tree trunk, chest heaving, trying to steady my breath. I could hear Carl crashing through the underbrush somewhere behind me. I stayed silent, hoping I was hidden enough. Minutes stretched on like hours. His footsteps had faded. I waited, still too afraid to move, afraid he might still be out there searching. Eventually, silence fell. I crept forward, staying low, moving from tree to tree. When I finally reached the edge of the woods, I looked back one last time. No sign of Carl. I flagged down the first person I saw and begged for help. That night I realized how easily a simple place could turn into a nightmare, and how some people aren't what they seem.